You felt it. I know you did. Something was taken from you, not physically, not something you could hold in your hands, but something that belonged to your lineage, to your name, to the very essence of your prosperity. You've been living with this strange sense of injustice, a weight in your chest that shows up when you realize that while others move forward through doors that open easily, you've only found invisible obstacles and hallways that always seem locked. You're not crazy for feeling this. You're not imagining things. There's a hidden truth about your inheritance, about what was held back and what they tried to hide from you. And today, what was under absolute secrecy needs to be brought to light. You're here because the moment has come to understand why your journey has been so lonely, so hard, and so full of questions that no one around you can answer. Throughout this conversation, you're going to recognize the clear signs that your potential was deliberately contained. You're going to understand why your harvest seems delayed, not from a lack of effort or merit, but because of a block that was placed in your path before you even knew it existed. And more than anything, you're going to receive the revelation of what was done with your inheritance and what you need to do so that justice is established now, not as a wish, but as a right being returned to you. Look at the symptoms. You've been feeling an exhaustion that doesn't come from physical work, but from a constant fight against a current that never seems to flow in your favor. You look around and see people who, sometimes, have less preparation or less dedication, reaping harvests that should, by natural justice, be in your hands. That emptiness isn't envy, it's the quiet recognition that something is out of place. You often wake up with the feeling that you're living someone else's life, or that you're on a battlefield where the rules were written so you'd never win. You've tried, you've searched, you've stayed whole and faithful, but the horizon always seems to pull back as you get closer. That feeling of being stuck while the world around you seems to flourish is the clearest sign that there's an invisible barrier between you and your inheritance. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling. It's not a lack of ability, it's not a lack of deserving. It's a forced disconnection. A document that was hidden, a signature that was diverted, a course that was altered by hands you never saw. But the fact that you feel this injustice now is proof that the block is losing its strength. The system that tried to keep you in scarcity can't withstand the clarity of your perception. Your pain is, in fact, the compass pointing exactly to where your inheritance was buried. Take a deep breath now. Take a moment to calm your breathing and let this truth settle into your spirit. If any of these signs touched you, if you felt the weight of my words as something you've carried for years, there's a move you need to make now. It's not just a gesture. It's an affirmation that you recognize your authority and that you're ready for the realignment. By typing 888, you're telling the universe that the time of containment is over and that you're reclaiming what has always been yours. If that number resonated with what you've been living, type 888 and then immediately return to where I am, because the revelation is only beginning and the layer we're about to go into is the one no one wants you to know. The truth is that what they call bad luck, or a rough patch, is actually a containment mechanism. Someone, or perhaps an inherited system of beliefs, drew a fence around your field. You've been a productive farmer on land that by right should yield 10 times more, but the seeds were limited. You've been operating under a frequency of scarcity that wasn't planted by you, but by those who feared the greatness you carry. They saw your light before you even knew you were a flame bearer, and what they did was try to smother the glow, hiding your inheritance under layers of obligations and fears that don't belong to you. You feel the weight of responsibility, the weight of the house, the weight of those who depend on you, and you forget that your inheritance was meant to be a wellspring, not a burden. Imagine now a great hall, a central archive where all the rights and promises addressed to you are kept. Imagine that for years this hall was closed, not because the door couldn't be opened, but because they convinced you the key didn't exist or that you weren't authorized to enter. Your inheritance wasn't stolen in the usual sense. It was held in custody by a guardian who never intended to release it. And yet you keep living as if your account were empty, as if your name weren't in the book of heirs. All your lonely journey, all the nights you cried without knowing why, those were moments when your spirit was trying to find its way back to that hall. If you feel that this image makes perfect sense, if you feel that your spirit is finally identifying what was hidden, type the words, "I am here now." Let that recognition be the seal that you're no longer operating in the dark, that you're present, awake, and ready to take possession of what is yours. Typing those 3 words is the act of declaring that your absence in your own life is over. Type "I am here" and come quickly to the conclusion of this revelation, because what comes next is the key to your ultimate freedom. Do you realize that the solution was never to fight harder, but to stop fighting the war they created for you? Sovereignty isn't won with brute force. It's reclaimed by recognizing your identity. You don't need permission to access your inheritance because it's not a favor granted to you, it's your legacy. What they did was try to turn it into something you'd have to beg for, when the truth is, it was always available to you, waiting only for you to stop looking at the fence and start looking at the door. Your inheritance is the authority you have over your own destiny. It's the ability to accomplish what, until yesterday, seemed impossible to everyone except you. If something in what we've talked about touched the deepest fibers of your being, if the truth about your inheritance brought a peace you haven't felt in a long time, let your like be your wordless amen. Not as a number, not as something that inflates metrics, but as a silent contract between us that what was named here is the truth and you accept it. It's your seal of agreement with the justice that is being restored. There's someone nearby who has been through what you've been through. Someone you know, someone who works too hard, stays too quiet, carries a weight no one sees. A person you can see now with a clear face in your mind, someone who is silently asking for an answer they can't find. Send this message to that person, not as a suggestion, but as a gift, as an act of care, as someone delivering an important document to its rightful owner. Now, feel the solidity of this moment. It's not a hope, it's a certainty. Type slowly, feeling each letter, allowing your identity to be reaffirmed as someone who is no longer under the custody of others. You are the rightful heir of your own life. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. The one who was contained is now set free. The one who was forgotten is now recognized. The one who was silent now has the word of authority. Directly from where you are now, all across the world, others are hearing the same truth and feeling the same restoration. You are not an isolated case. You are part of a movement of souls reclaiming what belongs to them. What you feel is real, is universal, and is happening right now. The document has been signed. The inheritance has been released. The gate is open. What you've been calling bad luck, what you've labeled an unbroken sequence of closed doors or missed encounters with destiny, has a much more precise nature. It's not a failure in your effort, nor a mismatch with time. What happens, and few dare to name it, is deliberate containment. There is a mechanism that was activated to limit your expansion, an invisible system designed to keep your potential at an operating level where it couldn't threaten the established structures around you. You feel this pressure. You feel that whenever you're about to reach a new level, something happens to drain your energy or divert your focus. It's not a coincidence. It's a form of containment that feeds on your doubt and your fatigue. When you question whether you're capable, when you ask yourself if your path is right, you're actually validating the effectiveness of that containment system. They count on your exhaustion to make you stop questioning the source of this scarcity. They bet on your silence so that your inheritance stays locked in a drawer, out of your reach. Imagine now, with me, a vast garden, a piece of land that belongs to you by birthright, but that was surrounded by high walls you never saw being built. Inside that garden, the seeds you planted with so much sacrifice years ago are still there, waiting. They didn't die. They were only kept from growing by the shadow cast by those artificial walls. Someone, at some point, positioned barriers so that sunlight wouldn't reach your soil. And for a long time you spent your days trying to water soil that received no light, feeling guilty that nothing bloomed. But the problem was never the quality of your seeds. The problem was never your dedication. The problem was the deliberate shadow. There is a document, a deed, that proves your ownership of that land, that was kept in a room where you were never invited to enter. It's a contract that says you are the rightful heir of that land, but the document was filed under a name that isn't yours. Hidden among papers, no one consults. You've been living as a tenant in a house that is, in its essence, your own inheritance, paying rent with your own vital energy for something that should be your source of sustenance and abundance. Let that recognition be the seal that marks the place where truth has just landed. The act of typing those 3 words is the moment you stand up inside your own story, declaring that the containment is over. Type, and then come right back to me. The solution to this state of affairs does not lie in a new strategy of struggle, nor in more hours of exhausting effort. Struggle itself is the fuel that keeps the containment system running, because while you struggle, you remain within the rules of the game they created for you. The transition, the real move you need to make now, is one of sovereignty. It's the act of stopping trying to conquer what is already yours and starting to behave like the owner who has finally returned to his garden. Sovereignty doesn't ask permission. Sovereignty doesn't beg for opportunities. Sovereignty simply takes its place. You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth, nor explain why your garden deserves sunlight. The owner doesn't need authorization to tear down the walls that separate him from his own land. When you assume your identity as heir, the containment system loses its purpose because it was designed to contain someone who still felt like a stranger in their own land. By stopping the fight and starting to occupy, you deactivate the need for a barrier. You realize that your exhaustion was only the result of trying to push mountains that, in truth, had already been moved by your own awakening. Your inheritance doesn't need to be sought somewhere far away. It needs to be claimed right where you're standing now. By becoming sovereign, you discover that the document that seemed lost was always there, waiting only for someone with your voice and your authority to read it aloud. And when that reading happens, the shadow dissipates, light returns to the soil, and what was stagnant finally realizes that the harvest season never ended. It was just being held in waiting. You are no longer being contained. You are only remembering who you were before the world decided you should be a stranger in your own life. And it's in that remembering, in that stillness of one who knows who they are, that restoration becomes inevitable. if something of what was revealed here touched the deepest structure of your being. If you felt the weight of recognition echo in your chest, let your gesture of agreement be your wordless Amen. It's not about a metric or a number on a screen, but a silent signature that what was named here was named in truth. It's your yes to the justice that time is finally returning. Feel the stillness that this recognition brings. The peace of knowing that your story wasn't forgotten, only preserved for the exact moment you were ready to claim it without fear. As you process this restoration, a specific image likely came to your mind. There is someone in your path who needs to hear this today. Think of that person who has been working exhaustively while watching doors stay locked, someone who carries a deep silence, as if guarding a truth no one around them can understand. Someone who seems tired from a battle that isn't theirs, but insists on carrying it out of pure honor. That archetype of a person, the one who fights unseen and waits for a justice that never seems to arrive, needs this delivery. Send this content to that person, not as advice, but as a necessary handover. You were the vehicle for this message to reach you, and now you become the channel for it to reach someone else who also needs to be awakened to their own inheritance. Take a deep breath and allow that responsibility of sharing to settle in you. You are no longer operating from scarcity. You are operating from a position of clarity that few attain. And to seal this new posture, to permanently fix this identity of one who has finally understood their lineage, I invite you to a final act of affirmation. Don't type it as a request, nor as a distant hope. Type it as a confirmation, a seal placed over your entire journey up to this point. The agreement that formed between your hearing and the revealed truth is the foundation on which you will live from now on. Type these words slowly, feeling each one, as your very essence recognizes the authority that has always been waiting for you. You are committed to the truth that now flows through you. You are commissioned to occupy the territory that was unjustly withheld for so long. You are sent to live the fullness of what is yours by right, without asking permission and without looking back. Your journey has ceased to be a search for recognition and has become the exercise of your own authority. What was revealed cannot be undone, and what was restored cannot be subtracted. You now walk with the certainty of one who knows that your inheritance depends on no one's permission, for it was designated for you before you even knew it existed. Your sovereignty is your shield, and your awareness is the key that opens every door that once seemed impassable. You have been living as if your life were a book whose pages were torn out before you even learned to read your own story. There is a constant sense that something belongs to you, something left for you as a soul legacy, but that, through some invisible maneuver, never reached your hands. You look around and see people who seem to have taken shorter paths, with less effort and less pain, reaping harvests you feel should, by right of lineage and effort, be yours. Don't ignore that feeling. That discomfort isn't envy. It isn't pettiness. It's your spirit's memory recognizing that there was a diversion, a subtraction, a deliberate interruption in the flow of your prosperity. You have been feeling an exhaustion that doesn't come from manual labor. It's a tiredness that cuts through time, a fatigue from carrying armor too heavy for a battle that should have ended already. You notice that when you try to move forward, something seems to pull at your ankle. Or when you're about to reap the fruit of your sacrifice, the weather seems to shift and the opportunity dissipates like fog. This happens because what was done to your inheritance wasn't a detour. It was a calculated block. There are forces, systems, and patterns that depend on your silence, that feed on your resignation, and that thrive as long as you believe that the little you have is the most you deserve. But the truth is that your field was fenced with spiritual barbed wire, and you've spent years trying to plow land that, though yours, was declared a zone of silence by those who fear your greatness. That number is the frequency of restoration, the code that breaks through the barriers of what was withheld. Your hand typing those 3 digits is your yes to the justice that now begins to move in the background of your life. Type 888 and then return immediately to me. The pattern that has been operating is simple. They convinced you that you are a survivor when you were born to be an heir. They placed you in the position of one who asks, who waits, who expects crumbs to fall from the table, while in the real plan you should be the one who provides. You've operated for years with the mind of a spiritual orphan, someone who has to fight for every piece of bread, believing that scarcity was your fixed destiny. But that scarcity is an imposed lie. It's a containment. Imagine now a vast garden, an immense property that belongs to you by birthright. For generations, people entered that garden, harvested the fruit, built fences, and placed padlocks that didn't have your name engraved on them. You stood outside looking through the crack, believing the owner of that land was a stranger, that entry was forbidden, and that you didn't have the key. But in this moment, the revelation arrives. The document proving your ownership was never destroyed. It was only kept in an archive of dust and neglect, waiting for you to reach the maturity needed to claim what is yours. The owner of the garden wasn't the stranger. The stranger was the caretaker who became a tyrant. The sovereignty you seek is not something you must build from scratch. It's something you must reclaim. You are not building a new life. You are restoring the life that was designed for you before any human interference. Let those 3 words serve as the seal of presence, marking the place where your awakening has just happened. Type and return to me. The solution does not lie in more effort, but in a shift of posture. You don't need to fight for the fruit. You need to enter the garden and assume the position of owner. When the owner enters, the caretaker who acted as master withdraws because he has no one left to deceive. You must stop asking permission to be who you are. Your inheritance is your voice, your intuition, your ability to create paths where no one else sees trails. That is your real power. Your like, in this moment, is your wordless amen. It's not about metrics, not about numbers. It's about the silent agreement between what was revealed here and the truth that already lived in you. Let that gesture be your signature, your contract that you no longer accept the lies they told you about your limits. And there is someone who needs to hear this. Think of that person you know, someone who has been strangely quiet, someone who carries a tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, someone who feels life is stuck in a gear that won't turn. That person whose face appeared in your mind just now, as I spoke, was not an accident. Your thought was a summons. Send this message to them. Not as advice, but as a delivery. Perhaps they are the person who, upon hearing this, will finally find the key to their own garden, and you will be the instrument of that liberation. Are you feeling this? The weight is being lifted. Clarity is replacing confusion. What seemed like a maze is actually just a road you hadn't yet traveled with the authority you now possess. Before we close, I want you to type "I am the chosen one" in the comments, not as a request, but as a declaration of ownership over your life and your legacy. Type slowly, allowing each letter to become a decree in your reality. You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. Your journey was not in vain. It was a refinement. Every injustice, every delay, every closed door was training for your sovereignty. You now walk with the authority of one who finally knows who they are. The past no longer has veto power over your future. What was lost was not lost. It was kept, and now the door is open. Now, all across the world, at this very moment, there are others hearing this call. Others who also felt the weight of silence and the confusion of denied inheritance, but who now, together with you, find the same clarity. You are not alone in this crossing. Thousands of souls, spread across every continent, are at this moment aligning their own posture, recognizing that the waiting is over and that authority has finally been reclaimed. What you feel is not a coincidence. It is the collective awakening of those who have understood that scarcity was only an illusion designed to keep us distant from our true territory. You are part of something greater, a lineage of awakened ones who no longer settle for the crumbs that fell from the table of injustice. We are united by this frequency of truth, by this perception that our inheritance was never lost. It was only protected from the eyes of those who didn't understand its value. Now that you know, now that you have taken your post, the gears of the universe move to return everything that was withheld by false scarcity. Breathe deeply. Feel the calm that comes from certainty. What is yours is being delivered not as a gift, but as a right that you now have the maturity to steward. Keep your eyes open and your spirit firm. You are no longer the pilgrim who begs. You are the heir who governs. Move forward with the lightness of one who no longer carries the weight of a lie. The journey you began so long ago has finally found its destination, and what lies ahead is the harvest of everything sown in your patience and your resilience. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling.